as our winter trek through Florida continued, we ended up spending a few weeks on what they call the Treasure Coast. It's sort of the east side of the state.
Yeah, it kind of runs from Stewart to Vero Beach and encompasses the towns of Port St. Lucie and Fort Pierce.
We actually ended up staying in Fort Pierce for the most part, but we did do a couple of weekend excursions and checked the area out. I think we just barely scratched the surface of things to do.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we really only had 2 full weekends and then an extra Saturday. And there is actually a lot to do there. So because we work during the week, we don't really get to do much during the week. So it's really only our couple weekends that we had. So, 5 days was definitely not enough to drive around and see everything there was to see, plus get a beach day in and some other activities. So I think that it would be probably worth a trip back because we do want to see everything, but we can kind of walk you through what we did visit.
And you did get a beach day.
I did get a beach day, finally.
And there's Jensen Beach has a nice beach area. Fort Pierce has quite a bit of beach. There's Jetty Park there in Fort Pierce is one of the places we went to. Big beaches.
Right. Well, that's basically all off Hutchinson Island, which is one of the barrier islands. So you've got the Atlantic Ocean, then the barrier islands, then the Indian River, and then the towns of like Fort Pierce and St. Lucie on sort of the inland. So there's actually quite a lot of opportunities. If you're a boater, you've got the whole Indian River. If you want to go swimming and surfboarding, you've got the Atlantic. I mean, you've got quite a few options. Every Saturday morning, there's a farmer's market and craft show in downtown Fort Pierce, right on the water. So you've got local vendors selling produce and fresh orange juice and bread and breakfast, donuts, breakfast burritos, all sorts of things. And then you've also got a little mini craft show with, different vendors selling things. So that's something to check out. And we got breakfast there both Saturdays because it was really good.
Well, it's right along the river too. So you go grab your breakfast and you go sit out by the river. We got to see dolphins a couple times actually playing in the river along with all kinds of birds and fish and just, Florida wildlife. It's really cool to just sit and watch it sometime. So
yeah, we said we barely scratched the surface. So, just a couple of things that we did, but there's a local orange juice production plant. In non-COVID times, they have tours, and unfortunately, they're not quite back open yet, but it's basically fresh squeezed, unpasteurized orange juice, and it's so good. And plus, you get orange juice, grapefruit, all that kind of thing. And let's see, what else did we do? We checked out the beach. There's a really nice state park that's right there in Fort Pierce, and you can do kayak rentals or just go to the beach, hang out, watch the boats go by. So a lot to do in that area.
It's Fort Pierce Inlet State Park, I think is the official name of that one. And we did spend some beach time there, and then we rented kayaks. We usually have an inflatable kayaks, folks probably know. We did not bring it on this trip, just given everything else we had to bring for this long of a trip. It just didn't make the cut. Well, didn't think we'd use it much.
No, and I also feel that the word inflatable and alligators don't go together. And I'm really hesitant about putting an inflatable kayak in Florida waters where it might get punctured, and I didn't really want to become the alligator lunch. So
we figured if there was some place to go kayaking, they'd probably have kayak rentals available, and they did. Fort Pierce Inlet State Park. They actually have 2 things. There's a sister companies there. One of them does tours. You can do a guided tour with clear kayaks, which I thought would be kind of neat. And then they also rent kayaks. You can do singles or tandems. I think they even have triples there. I guess if you have a little kid and they get to sit in the middle and not really do anything, but that works if you have a small family. So we spent a couple of hours out there, and it's really neat because you can kind of go around in the kayaks in the river, and then you end up in a tunnel of mangrove trees.
Oh, that was really cool.
So that was neat to see some of the wildlife. We ended up doing it just as we hit the water. Rain moved in, unpredicted rain. Nobody had talked about any kind of rain, and all of a sudden it started raining, and we're like, well, it's Florida. It's going to rain a little bit, and then it'll move on. No, it was a downpour for a bit.
And it pretty much rained on and off the entire 2 hours that we were out there kayaking. Now, we still had fun. It was a little bit chillier and cloudier than we expected. So the water that was normally clear was a little more murky and cloudy because the rain was stirring it up. So we didn't get to see all the fish that we were expecting, but we got to see a handful of things and some birds and some fish. And just the mangroves themselves were really cool, though, because that's not something that you get a lot of places. And like the tunnels where you've got the whole mangroves growing up and around you was really neat. So I'm glad we did get to do that.
That was fun. I'm glad we did that, too.
Another thing to do in Fort Pierce that we did not get to do, we just simply ran out of time, is the Navy SEAL Museum. Because the whole Fort Pierce and that Treasure Coast section was where Basically, the SEALs got their start way back in World War II when, our military realized that we did not have the resources and the manpower and the ships and the crew to fight in World War II and what we needed to do from a naval perspective. So the Frogmen, as they're known, got their start in Fort Pierce, and that was where they all started. And the old Coast Guard station is still there that they built. Most of the rest of the buildings are gone now and the pilings, but there's some historic signs around the Jetty Park area that talk about how it got its start.
That would be a good thing to put on our list for next time. There's a lot of little things there to see in the Fort Pierce area. There's an aquarium that's there. There is a manatee education center, so you can learn more about the manatees that are in the area. So it was, just a place I think you could spend a lot of time and kind of wander around and check things out. And then we also went and on one of our weekends, we went down to Port St. Lucie and sort of stumbled into, we weren't planning it initially, but they have a really nice botanical garden there.
They do. And the botanical garden itself is free. They do ask for a little bit of a donation, but the grounds are open dawn to dusk that you can go out and walk through, and they have different rooms. There's the orchid room and the palm room. And by rooms, we mean like outdoor areas because the whole thing is outside. It is Florida. But yeah, there's just different sections that you can wander through, and you can spend as little as 15 minutes or as long as 4 hours or longer, however you want, because there's some benches, there's places to sit and just enjoy. There's a lot of, if you want to read all the little signs about what the plants are, there's a whole cactus section that was really cool. And different times of the year, different flowers are going to be in season. So I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the little signs, one of the things I liked that they did there was every little sign that has markings for what the plant is has a QR code.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So you get your phone out, your camera, and you can go to a web page that they maintain that tells you all about the plant you're looking at, where it's from, and how to care for it. It was just, I thought that was a really interesting way. So you could spend a lot of time there doing that if you want. But wander through there and just relax and do that. They also, in addition to taking donations, they sell plants, and I think the proceeds help go to support the botanical garden. We ended up getting a van-sized plant.
Herman Van Gogh.
Herman Van Plant.
Oh, Van Plant. We changed his, yes. Herman Van Plant.
Is what we named him, and he's very tiny, and they claim he's going to stay very tiny. So that's what we need for the van. But that was really cool. And then they do have at least one alligator. It's funny, we laugh because there's a sign by the pond there, and it says, "Watch for alligator." And usually it's alligators, and we're like, do they only have one? And then we saw one, so maybe they do only have one.
Yeah, that was kind of cool to check out. He was just sunning himself. And then right if you leave the botanical gardens, you can leave your car parked right there, and then kind of walk to the front. There's a boardwalk that you can catch that runs along, and I don't actually know what that river is called that was in there. But anyways, there's a little river. And there's a nice boardwalk, and we saw a ton of different birds along that, and birds that I didn't even know what were. We had to check out, or look them up online. But that was a really nice walk. So I would suggest that if you do the Port St. Lucie Botanical Gardens, then you also make that extra step and go down and check out the boardwalk.
Once you finish your time in Port St. Lucie, you keep going further down, and you're going to end up in Jensen Beach. That was a beach. Obviously, you were sold as soon as you had that in the name of it.
So there's nothing super special about Jensen Beach other than part of my family's last name is Jensen. So it's just sort of a thing that we all wanted to go and take a picture with the sign Jensen Beach. And my nephew's name is Jensen, so we kind of wanted to get it for him. But they do have a cute little downtown area. We did stay there and go for lunch. And then they have this cute little artist village where they took some old homes in the area in this one little section of the downtown, and they turned them, I guess they're more little cottages, and they turned them into artists' place. So you've got like a jeweler and a painter and just from photography artwork and a couple different things there. And so that was really clever the way they had kind of turned that around. And then again, you can go out to the barrier island and actually go to the beach there. It was very blustery the day that we visited, so we did not get to enjoy the beach, but we did go out there and take some pictures, at least to say that we had been at the beach. Speaking of blustery days, I have to say I'm pretty sure it was blustery more often than it was not during our time there, but that actually makes for some unique experiences, and not something we did, but up in the Fort Pierce area along the Jetty Park were all these folks out in the water with their big, like, parasails and wind kites and their foils and doing crazy things in the water, jumping up and out and like surfboarding. I don't know, surfboarding with a parasail. And I know that there's a technical word for it and I don't know what it is, but it's like kite surfboarding, sailing, something or other. And someday it'll be in the Olympics. But they can only do that on a blustery day. So if it's nice and 80 degrees and sunny and there's everybody at the beach, you're not going to see those guys out there. And they were impressive to watch. So we went out there a couple times to watch them just because that was fun. So even on those cold, blustery days, get out of your RV, condo, rental house, whatever it is, and still go check out the beach because there's always something going on.
Well, you never know what you're going to find as you wander around and look for things, too. And one of the things we noticed driving around is the number of preserves, as they refer to them. Some are county, some are state. We ended up going to Savannah State Park Preserve, something like that. Anyway, that was kind of cool. Just a small trail system to kind of wander through. And they say one of the things there is you get to see sort of what some of original Florida would have looked like.
Yeah, it was like the original coastal wetland something, and I'm probably getting that wrong, and maybe we can link to it or put something. But yeah, basically, it was what that section and what most of Florida looked like prior to them draining it for agriculture and development. So you get to see some what
they call original
Florida.
Right? And they also happen to have an eagle's nest there right now, so that was neat to be able to
get to see the eagle.
Yeah, to be able to see that. But that's what you find when you just sort of drive around and go explore these different areas. And I think we found a good spot to do that.
Yeah, like you said, there's a number of different preserves, and basically they're like county parks, but they call them preserves. And we checked out another one where it used to be an old settlement in the late 1800s, where there's still an old cemetery left there. And in that case, it was a housing development was actually getting ready to go in a handful of years ago. And for whatever reason, I'm not really sure, they didn't explain it, but the county stepped in and bought the land to preserve it because there was this historic cemetery there and it had played a significant role in the building of the area. And there's also an Indian, it's not a burial ground, it's an Indian
it's
like a
essentially
landfill.
It's essentially what they figured out was their trash heap, right?
Yeah,
but they find a lot of information, and it's a really interesting history because that particular Indian tribe went extinct like in the 1700s or something.
Yeah. So luckily the county was able to preserve the preserve, and now you can just walk through it. It's not very long, maybe a mile or two at most of trails in there, but just really cool to see. So.
I was going to say, that one's also kind of interesting. It's Spruce Bluff, I think is what that one's called, the Spruce Bluff Preserve. But what is interesting is you go through there, you can still tell where some of the houses were platted out.
Yeah.
Like they were going to, build this housing development in there. And so that's still there a little bit. It's
like
all
they
overgrown.
built the road, but then maybe we don't know if it went bankrupt or what happened, and the county stepped in. And I'm so glad they did, because it's just this nice little oasis in the middle of this. Like you're driving through a whole residential neighborhood to get there. So I'm assuming it would have been the extension of the neighborhood, but now it's a nice little park.
So I think if you get a chance, check out the Treasure Coast area of Florida. We've enjoyed it. We're not there anymore, and we're obviously not in our van, if you can tell from the background. One of the advantages of RV life is getting to visit with family. We're down in an area visiting with my brother and sister-in-law and staying with them for a few days. So we're going to take advantage of their hospitality and have some fun visiting with them. But that's, again, what I like about the RV life. We can be out exploring in the middle of nowhere, or we can be hanging out with family, and we have all of our stuff with us.
That is definitely one of the good things about RVing. And we just love checking out new places in general. And the Treasure Coast we had never been to. We're hoping to get back again next winter to check out all the other things that we missed. But in the meantime, keep on trekking.
And we'll see you out there.